I'm holding a dying man in my arms, and he's whispering a name I'll carry for 8 years, Thomas Ward. That's what his deputy marshal badge says when I search his body later, my hands shaking so badly I can barely read the engraving. But right now, in this moment, all I know is that his blood is warm against my fingers and his eyes are fixed on mine with something that looks like forgiveness. We're in the back room of a saloon in Derby, Montana. The year is 1875, and I'm 26 years old. The Dalton gang paid me $50 to make sure this man never talked. They told me he was one of their own who turned snitch. They told me he deserved what was coming. They lied. His hand shoots out, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength for a dying man. In his other hand, he's clutching a tin cup so tightly the handle bends under the pressure. Blood bubbles at his lips when he tries to speak. "You've made a mistake," he rasps. I want to ask what he means, but the words won't come. I'm frozen, watching the light fade from eyes that aren't afraid. They're disappointed, like I'm a child who should have known better. "Sarah," he whispers, and the name comes out wet with blood. "Tell Sarah not your fault. I forgive." Then he's gone. I search him with trembling hands. No gang tattoos, no wanted posters, just that badge, hidden in his boot like a secret he died protecting, and a worn leather journal in his coat pocket, pages filled with neat handwriting I'm too terrified to read. I bury the badge in the woods behind the saloon. I burn his identification papers in the stove. And then I ride up into the Bitterroot Mountains, where the snow falls thick enough to bury secrets, and the silence is so complete you can hear your own guilt breathing. I've been here ever since, alone, waiting for the law to find me. But it's not the law that finds me 8 years later. It's his sister. The advertisement I posted on the community board outside Walsh's Mercantile in Derby was brutally simple. Cook needed. Must not fear isolation or hard work. Room, board, and $10 a month. Ask for Gideon Cross. I didn't want to write it. For 8 years, I've lived as a hermit on these unforgiving slopes, a ghost haunting the same mountains that haunt me. I'm a trapper, a hunter, a man who's learned that grizzly bears are more honest than people and loneliness is safer than connection. But 3 weeks ago, a rotted tree branch gave way while I was checking my trap line. I fell 20 feet, and my right leg snapped like kindling when I hit the frozen ground. I managed to drag myself back to the cabin, set the bone myself with a leather strap between my teeth, and splint it with strips of bark and torn cloth. The deep winter is coming. The kind that buries cabins to the roofline and turns the mountain passes into walls of white. If I can't hunt, and I can't chop enough wood to outlast the freeze, I'll die up here with nothing but my guilt for company. So I need hands. I need help. I need someone who won't ask questions about why a man would choose to live like this. When the buckboard wagon finally grinds up the rutted trail to my clearing, the first snow of November is already falling. Fat flakes drift down from a sky the color of old bruises, settling on the pine branches and turning the world into something clean and silent and beautiful. I'm standing on my porch, leaning heavily on a crutch I fashioned from hickory. My leg throbs with each heartbeat, a constant reminder that the mountain always collects its debts eventually. I expect a sturdy widow from the valley. Maybe an older woman with hands like ham hocks and a constitution forged in frontier hardship. Someone who knows what winter means up here. Someone who won't break. Instead, a woman steps down from the wagon, and every muscle in my body goes tight. She's young, maybe 26. Pale skin that looks almost translucent in the harsh mountain light, wisps of chestnut hair escaping from a modest bonnet. She's wearing a worn wool coat that's seen better winters, and she's carrying a single leather traveling bag that's been repaired so many times the patches have patches. But it's her condition that makes my chest tighten with immediate anger. She's 6 months pregnant, maybe more. The swell of her belly is unmistakable even under the heavy coat. "Mr. Cross," she says, and her voice is soft, melodic, threaded with exhaustion that goes bone deep. I don't answer. I'm too busy glaring at Toby Chen, the 19-year-old driver who brought her up here. The kid's already turning the horses, desperate to get back down the mountain before the snow gets serious. "Toby," I call out, my voice the low gravel rumble of a man who hasn't used it much lately. "What in the devil is this? I asked for a worker, not a charity case." "She's the only one who answered the ad, Gideon," Toby shouts back. "Sheriff cleared it, said you take her or you manage on your own. Good luck to you both." He whips the reins and the wagon lurches forward, wheels cutting fresh tracks through the snow. Within moments, he's disappeared around the first switchback, leaving nothing but hoof prints and the soft whisper of falling snow. I turn my furious gaze back to the woman. She hasn't flinched at my shouting. She's standing ankle-deep in the snow, clutching her bag, her chin raised in defiance. The snowflakes catch in her hair like stars. "I am Nora Finch," she says, her breath pluming in the freezing air. "I am a capable cook, Mr. Cross. I am clean. I am quiet. And I am not a charity case. I am here to work." "You're with child," I say bluntly, pointing a calloused finger at her midsection. "This isn't a place for a woman in your condition. There's no doctor for 30 miles. If the winter closes the pass, there's no getting out until spring. You'll die up here, and you'll take that baby with you." Her eyes lock onto mine, and I'm struck by them. Deep brown, almost black in this light. There's something familiar in them that I can't quite place. Something that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "If I had stayed in the valley, Mr. Cross, we would have starved before the first snowfall," she says, each word carefully measured. "I have nowhere else to go. I will earn my keep." I stare at her, taking in the tremor in her hands, the slight blue tint to her lips, the way she's holding that bag like it contains everything she owns in the world, which it probably does, but I also see something else, a desperate, feral pride. The same kind of pride that drove me up this mountain 8 years ago. The wind howls through the pines, a low, moaning warning that the temperature is dropping fast. I can't send her back now, even if I wanted to. A pregnant woman on foot wouldn't make it 2 miles down the mountain in this weather. "Get inside," I grunt, turning awkwardly on my crutch, "before you freeze on my porch and give me another body to bury." The words come out harsher than I intend, but she doesn't flinch. She just picks up her bag and follows me into the dim interior of the cabin. It's exactly what you'd expect from a solitary, injured mountain man. The air is thick with the smell of old grease, wet wool, and wood smoke. Dust coats the rough-hewn table. Dirty cast-iron pans sit stacked on the cold stove. The floorboards are stained with mud and dried blood from butchered game. Cobwebs hang in the corners like lace. I watch her take it in, waiting for the tears, the disgust, the immediate demand to be returned to civilization. Instead, she sets her bag down by the door with a soft thump. She unbuttons her heavy coat, revealing a simple dark cotton dress that stretches over her rounded belly. She rolls up her sleeves, exposing slender wrists marked with old scars I pretend not to notice. "Where is the lye soap?" she asks, her voice steady as a held breath. "And the bucket? I'll need to boil water." I blink, thrown completely off balance. Under the wash basin. Pump is out back. "You have a broken leg," she notes, looking at my splint with what I realize is a clinical eye. "I will fetch the water. Please sit down, Mr. Cross. You are in my way." Gideon Cross, a man who once fought off a mountain lion with a hunting knife, finds himself dumbly obeying this pregnant woman. I hobble over to my armchair by the cold hearth and lower myself down, watching in stunned silence as Nora Finch begins to systematically dismantle the chaos of my life. She works with the efficiency of someone who's done hard labor before. The bucket goes out to the pump. The stove gets stoked with kindling I'd split before the accident. Water begins to heat. She finds the soap and a scrub brush I'd forgotten I owned, and she hums while she works. Soft, tuneless humming that fills the cabin with something I haven't heard in 8 years. The sound of another human being existing in the same space as me. For the first week, we live in a tense, weary orbit around each other. I'm a man of long silences, unaccustomed to the rustle of skirts or the way another person's breathing changes the acoustics of a room. I watch her constantly, waiting for her to break. The work is brutal, the cabin is drafty, the wood stove requires constant feeding, and fetching water from the half-frozen pump is a grueling chore that leaves her gasping. Yet she doesn't break. She bends. She struggles. She sometimes pauses to press a hand to the small of her back with a silent grimace. But she never complains, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the cabin begins to transform. The layer of grime vanishes from the windows, letting in pale winter sunlight I'd forgotten existed. The floorboards are scrubbed until the natural grain of the pine shows through. The cobwebs disappear. The dishes get washed after every meal. But it's not just the cleanliness. It's something else. An atmosphere. A quality of the air. Nora Finch brings a quiet dignity to this savage wilderness, and I don't know what to do with it. One evening, about 5 days after her arrival, I'm sitting at the table expecting the usual hardtack and salted pork I've been surviving on for years. Instead, she places a steaming bowl in front of me, and the smell alone makes my mouth water. It's a rich, thick stew made from the last of my venison, but she's done something to it. Added wild onions she must have foraged before the snow got too deep. Thickened it with a roux that turns it silky and complex. Beside the bowl sits a biscuit, perfectly golden, still warm. I pick up my spoon and take a bite. The flavor explodes in my mouth. It's not just food. It's a memory. It's my mother's kitchen when I was a boy, before everything went wrong. It's comfort and home, and things I thought I'd left behind forever. I look up at her. She's sitting across from me, eating slowly, her eyes cast down at her own bowl. There's something almost meditative about the way she eats, like she's grateful for every bite. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" I ask, my voice softer than I intended. She pauses, her spoon hovering. "My brother taught me. He loved sage and thyme, said it reminded him of home." The past tense doesn't escape me. What happened to him? A shadow passes over her face, quick as a bird's wing. Her hand unconsciously goes to a small tarnished silver locket that hangs at her throat, resting just above the swell of her pregnancy. "He died 8 years ago," she says quietly. "He was a deputy marshal, killed in the line of duty. 8 years ago, the same year I killed Thomas Ward." I set my spoon down carefully, trying to keep my hand from shaking. "I'm sorry for your loss." She nods, still not meeting my eyes. "He was a good man, better than most. He tried to do the right thing, even when it cost him." The room suddenly feels too small, the air too thick. I need to change the subject before she sees something in my face that I can't explain. "Well," I manage, picking up the biscuit to give my hand something to do. "He taught you well. This is the best meal I've had in a decade." It's the closest thing to a compliment I've given in years, and it lands between us like a gift. A faint color rises in her cheeks, dusty pink against her pale skin. For just a second, the corner of her mouth twitches upward into something that might become a smile if given permission. It strikes me like a physical blow. Beneath the exhaustion and the grief and the swollen pregnancy, there's a quiet, resilient beauty, the kind that comes from surviving things that should have broken her. She looks like someone who's been through a war and came out the other side still believing in things like biscuits and sage, and the way a meal can make a stranger feel human again. I eat the rest of my dinner in silence, hyper-aware of her across the table. The way she holds her cup, the precise, elegant way she tears her biscuit into small pieces, the way she touches that locket when she thinks I'm not looking. That night, after she's gone to bed in the small corner I've curtained off for her, I lie awake in my chair by the dying fire and try to piece together the impossible arithmetic of coincidence. A woman appears on my mountain. She's running from something. Her brother was a deputy marshal who died 8 years ago, the same year I killed a deputy marshal in Derby. It can't be the same man. The odds are astronomical. Montana Territory is vast. There are dozens of deputy marshals. Hundreds of ways to die out here. But that locket, the way she said his name, the look in her eyes. I don't sleep that night. I just watch the embers fade to ash and listen to her breathe in the darkness, wondering what kind of cosmic joke would bring Thomas Ward's sister to the cabin of the man who killed him. The next day I start watching her more carefully, not just watching, studying. I notice things, small things, the way she organizes the kitchen with military precision, the way she checks the window every morning like she's looking for someone, the way she keeps that leather bag of hers close, never fully unpacked, like she's ready to run at a moment's notice. And I notice the scars. They're old, long-healed, thin white lines on her wrists and forearms, the kind you get from working with medical instruments or barbed wire or broken glass. When she reaches for something on a high shelf and her sleeve rides up, I see more of them. A pattern of old wounds that tell a story I don't know how to read. On the third day, while she's outside hanging wet towels on the line I'd strung across the porch, I do something I'm not proud of. I open her bag. My hands are shaking as I unfold the worn leather. Inside, carefully packed, I find a nurse's kit, bandages, sutures, a small leather case of surgical tools, bottles of carbolic acid and laudanum, so she wasn't lying about being a nurse. Beneath the medical supplies, I find a change of clothes, a worn Bible, a tintype photograph of a young woman and a man in military uniform, both smiling at the camera like they don't know the world is about to break their hearts. The woman in the photograph is Nora, maybe 5 years younger. The man beside her has kind eyes and a strong jaw. Her brother, it has to be. And at the very bottom of the bag, wrapped in oilcloth, I find a leather-bound journal. I know I shouldn't open it. This is her private property, her private grief. But my hands are already moving, unwrapping the cloth, opening the cover. The handwriting inside is neat, precise, masculine. The entries are dated, starting from 1874 and running through July of 1875. Thomas Ward's journal. My vision tunnels. My ears start ringing. I flip through the pages with numb fingers, scanning entries that talk about undercover work, about infiltrating the Dalton gang, about a young gun named Gideon Cross, who doesn't know he's being set up. I find the entry from June 1875, 1 month before he died. I've infiltrated the Dalton gang. They trust me now. But there's someone else working for them, a young gun named Gideon Cross. He doesn't know I'm a marshal. I have to be careful. If they find out, they'll use him to kill me. He's just a kid trying to survive. I won't let them turn him into a murderer. The journal slips from my hands and hits the floor with a sound like a gunshot. He knew. Thomas Ward knew the Daltons were going to use me. He knew I was being set up. And he tried to protect me anyway. I hear footsteps on the porch. Nora's coming back inside. I shove the journal back into the bag, my heart hammering so hard I think it might crack my ribs. By the time she opens the door, I'm back in my chair by the fire, pretending to whittle a piece of cedar. She hangs her coat by the door, brushes snow from her hair, and goes back to her work without a word. But I see her glance at the bag, just once, quick as a breath, and I know she knows I touched it. That night, the temperature drops so fast the walls of the cabin creak and groan like a ship in a storm. The wind comes howling down from the high peaks, rattling the shutters and finding every crack in the chinkling. I'm building up the fire when Nora speaks from her corner. "Mr. Cross, may I ask you something?" I freeze, poker in hand. "Go ahead." "Have you ever killed a man?" The poker slips from my fingers and clatters against the hearth. I don't pick it up. I just stare into the flames, watching them dance and flicker like memories I can't escape. "Only in self-defense," I finally say. It's not entirely a lie. I thought I was defending myself when I shot Thomas Ward, and only men who deserved it. Silence stretches between us, heavy as the snow piling up outside. "My brother was killed by someone like that," she says quietly. "A coward who shot him and ran. Left him bleeding on a saloon floor without even the decency to face what he'd done." The fire blurs in my vision. I realize I'm crying. Silent tears that I wipe away quickly before she can see. "I'm sorry," I manage. "That must be hard to carry." It is, but I'm used to carrying hard things. I hear her stand up, hear her footsteps crossing the floor toward me. I don't turn around. I can't. She stops beside my chair. For a long moment, neither of us moves. Then she places something on the arm of my chair, something small and metallic. "I found this in your things," she says softly. "When I was looking for extra blankets in the storage chest. I wasn't snooping. I needed blankets for my bed." I look down. It's a tin cup, old, dented. The handle bent at an angle, the same cup Thomas Ward was holding when he died. The same cup I took from the saloon that night, thinking I could melt it down and erase the evidence. The same cup I shoved into that storage chest 8 years ago and tried to forget about. That cup, Nora says, and her voice is shaking now, has my brother's initials scratched into the bottom. T.W., he always carried it, said it was lucky. I can't breathe. The room is spinning. "I came here because the sheriff in Derby said you were hiring," she continues. "But before I left town, I did some asking around about you, about why a man would live alone on a mountain for 8 years, and I found out something interesting." She moves around to face me, and when I finally force myself to meet her eyes, they're filled with tears. "You were in Derby the night Thomas was killed. You left town the same night. You never came back. And you've been hiding up here ever since, like a man running from something he can't outrun." "Nora," I start, but she holds up a hand. "I'm not here for the job, Mr. Cross. I'm here because I think you know what happened to my brother. And I'm not leaving until you tell me the truth." The wind screams outside, battering the cabin. Snow hisses against the windows. The fire pops and crackles, indifferent to the wreckage of 2 lives colliding in this small, desperate space. "I didn't come here to accuse you," she says, softer now. "I came here because his journal said to find you. His last entry, written the day before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should find Gideon Cross. He said you would tell me the truth." She takes the journal from her apron pocket and opens it to the last page, holds it out to me. I take it with shaking hands and read Thomas Ward's final words. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I've failed. But I need you to know that Gideon Cross is not your enemy. The Daltons set him up to kill me, thinking I was a traitor to the gang. Gideon was just their weapon, a tool. Find him. Tell him the truth. Tell him I don't blame him. And tell him this, watch out for a man named Elias. He's the real killer. He's dangerous. If he ever finds you, run. But Gideon is good. He just doesn't know it yet. Take care of him. He'll take care of you." The journal falls from my hands for the second time today. Nora, Sarah, whoever she is, sinks down onto the floor in front of my chair. She's crying openly now, one hand on her swollen belly, the other covering her mouth. "I don't understand," she whispers. "He wrote that you didn't kill him, but you were there. You ran. You've been hiding for 8 years. If you didn't kill him, who did?" I stare at the fire, my mind racing through that night. The saloon, the gunshot, Thomas falling. Me, drunk and stupid, holding a gun I don't remember firing. But now that I think about it, really think about it, I remember something else. A figure in the doorway. Just for a second. Someone who looked exactly like me. "Elias," I breathe. Nora's head snaps up. "What?" "Elias Cross, my twin brother. He was there that night. I saw him, just for a second. I thought I was seeing double because I was drunk, but he was there." The truth crashes over me like an avalanche. 8 years of guilt, 8 years of running, and it was never me at all. It was my brother, my twin, the man I thought died in an avalanche 8 years ago. "Your brother," Nora says slowly, and something in her voice makes my blood run cold. "Describe him. Identical twin, same height, same build. But his eyes, they're different, colder. He has a scar on his left cheek from a knife fight when we were kids." Nora stands up so fast she stumbles. I reach out to steady her, but she backs away from me like I'm on fire. "No," she whispers. "No, no, no." "What? What is it?" She's trembling all over, both hands pressed against her belly, like she's trying to protect the baby from the words she's about to say. "The father of my child," she says, and her voice breaks. The man I fell in love with 6 months ago. The man who got me pregnant and then disappeared. She looks up at me, her face white as the snow outside. His name was Elias. He had a scar on his cheek, and he looked exactly like you. The world stops. The fire stops crackling. The wind stops howling. Even my heart seems to stop beating. Elias, my brother, the man I thought was dead. He's alive. He killed Thomas Ward. He framed me for it. And then he found Thomas's sister, seduced her, got her pregnant, and sent her to me. Why? Why would he do that? As if she can read my thoughts, Nora pulls a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. Her hands are shaking so hard she can barely hold it. He left me this. The night he disappeared. I didn't understand it until now. She hands it to me. The paper is worn from being folded and unfolded too many times. The handwriting is achingly familiar. My own handwriting. My twins' handwriting. I'm sorry, Sarah. I can't give you the life you deserve. Go west. Find my brother Gideon Cross in Montana. He'll protect you. He owes me. Tell him I'm alive. Tell him I'm coming for what's mine. The paper drops from my numb fingers. Nora sinks back down to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Outside, the blizzard reaches a fever pitch. Snow hammers against the cabin like it's trying to bury us alive. The temperature plummets. The fire struggles against a downdraft that smells like ice and iron and the sharp metallic tang of a future I can't escape. I'm holding Thomas Ward's journal in one hand and that crumpled note in the other, and I finally understand. I'm not just a man hiding from his past. I'm a pawn in my brother's game. A game that started 8 years ago with a murder and is now somehow culminating in this cabin with this woman and this baby and a truth so twisted I can barely comprehend it. Elias is alive. He killed Thomas. He framed me. He found Thomas's sister. He got her pregnant. And he sent her to me, knowing I would take her in out of guilt. But why? What does he want? What's his endgame? The wind shrieks like a dying animal, and somewhere in that sound I swear I hear laughter, my brother's laughter, because he's not done with us yet. He's coming. And when he arrives, everything I thought I knew about guilt and innocence and the weight of the past is going to shatter like ice under a boot. I look at Nora, Sarah, this woman carrying my brother's child, and I make a decision. You're safe here, I tell her, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. Whatever game Elias is playing, whatever he wants, he's not going to touch you, not while I'm breathing. She looks up at me through her tears, searching my face for something. Truth, maybe, or just the promise that one person in this godforsaken world will keep their word. Why? She whispers. Why would you protect me? I'm nothing to you, just a stranger who showed up and turned your life upside down. I think about Thomas Ward, dying in my arms, asking me to take care of Sarah. I think about 8 years of carrying a guilt that was never mine to carry. I think about my brother out there somewhere playing puppet master with all our lives. Because your brother asked me to, I say simply, and because it's the right thing to do. He also said you were good, she says softly. In his journal, he said you were good and you just didn't know it yet. I'm not good, I'm just tired of running. Maybe that's the same thing. The fire flares up suddenly, casting wild shadows on the walls. Outside, the blizzard roars like it's trying to shake the mountain itself loose from its foundations. We're trapped here now, Sarah and I. Trapped by snow and secrets and a past that won't stay buried. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's time to stop running. To stand and face whatever's coming. Even if what's coming is my brother, my twin, my mirror image, and my opposite in every way that matters. I help Sarah to her feet. She's exhausted, emotionally wrung out. I guide her to the corner that serves as her bedroom, make sure she has enough blankets to last the night. Before I leave, she catches my hand. Gideon, she says, using my first name for the first time, whatever happens, whatever he wants, promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll protect the baby, not because it's Elias's, but because it's innocent. It didn't ask to be born into this mess. I look down at her hand on mine. Small, scarred, strong. I promise. She nods and releases me. I return to my chair by the fire, but I don't sleep. I sit up all night listening to the storm, watching the flames, thinking about twins and mirrors and the way the past has a habit of finding you no matter how far you run. When dawn finally comes, gray and cold, the world outside is buried under 3 feet of fresh snow. The pass will be impassable for weeks, maybe months. We're cut off from the world, just me and Sarah and the ghost of my brother hanging between us like smoke. I stand at the window looking out at the white expanse, and I see something that makes my blood freeze in my veins. Tracks in the snow. Fresh tracks. Leading up to the cabin and then away again, disappearing into the tree line. Someone was here last night, watching, waiting. And I know with the certainty of bone-deep dread that it was Elias. He's out there, in the storm, circling, biding his time. The game is just beginning, and I have no idea how to win. The tracks in the snow haunt me all morning. I stand at the window with my rifle, watching the tree line, waiting for movement that never comes. The sun rises weak and pale over the mountains, turning the fresh snow into a field of diamonds that hurt to look at. Everything is beautiful and deadly quiet. Sarah emerges from her corner around mid-morning, moving slowly, one hand pressed to her lower back. Her eyes are swollen from crying, but her face is composed. She's the kind of woman who saves her breaking for the dark hours when no one can see. "Coffee?" she asks, her voice hoarse. "I'll make it," I say, not taking my eyes off the window. "You can barely walk. Sit down." It's not a request. I hobble back to my chair and watch as she moves through the morning routine with practiced efficiency. The stove gets fed, water boils, the cabin fills with the smell of coffee and something else, something I can't quite name, something like normalcy. But normal is a lie we're both pretending to believe. When she sets the cup in front of me, I notice her hands are steady now. Whatever storm passed through her last night has left her harder somehow, tempered. "The tracks," she says, sitting down across from me. "You saw them too." "Yes." It's him, isn't it, Elias?" I nod, wrapping my hands around the cup for warmth that has nothing to do with temperature. "Why doesn't he just come to the door?" she asks. "Why circle us like a wolf?" "Because that's what he does. He waits, he watches. He finds the exact right moment to strike, and then he does it in a way that makes you think it was your own fault all along." Sarah's hand goes to her belly, an unconscious gesture of protection I've seen her make 100 times. "Tell me about him, about your brother. I need to know who the father of my child really is." So I tell her. I tell her about growing up as twins in a homestead 20 miles south of here. About how our mother died when we were 10 and our father never quite recovered. About how Elias and I were identical on the outside but completely different on the inside, like two halves of the same coin that could never face the same direction. I tell her about the hunger in Elias. The way he always wanted more than what we had, more attention, more respect, more of everything. And how that hunger turned dark when our father started drinking, started choosing me over him for every little thing. The hunting trips, the lessons in trapping and tracking. The quiet moments by the fire when a father teaches his son what it means to be a man. Elias got none of that. He got the back of our father's hand and the cold silence that comes after. I tried to share it with him, I say, staring into my coffee like it holds answers. Everything Father taught me, I'd teach to Elias later. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't enough. He wanted it firsthand. He wanted to be seen. "What happened to your father?" Sarah asks. "Died when we were 20. Hunting accident. At least, that's what the sheriff ruled it. But you don't think it was an accident." I meet her eyes. Elias was with him when it happened. Said Father slipped on ice crossing a ravine, fell 40 feet onto rocks. But Father had crossed that ravine 1,000 times. He knew every inch of this mountain. Understanding dawns in Sarah's face. "You think Elias pushed him?" "I don't know. I'll never know. But a year after Father died, Elias started running with bad men, the Dalton gang, outlaws and killers. I tried to pull him back, tried to remind him of who we used to be. but he was already gone. I take a long drink of coffee, remembering. The avalanche happened during a hunting trip. We were tracking elk in the high country when the whole mountainside came down. I got caught in it, buried up to my chest. Elias dug me out, saved my life. But then the snow shifted again, and he disappeared. I searched for 3 days, found his rifle, his coat, but no body. You thought he was dead. I buried an empty casket, mourned him for 2 years, and then one day I saw him in a saloon in Denver. He was alive, working for the Daltons. He looked right at me, smiled, and walked away like I was a stranger. Sarah's quiet for a long moment, processing. That must have destroyed you. It did. I followed him, tried to talk to him, but he was gone before I could catch up. I went back to the homestead, but everything reminded me of ghosts, so I came up here, started trapping, started trying to forget. Until the night you met my brother. Until the night Thomas Ward died and I thought I'd killed him. The fire crackles. Outside, a branch heavy with snow breaks and falls with a muffled thump. The journal said Elias was the real killer, Sarah says carefully. That he was working for the Daltons, and they wanted Thomas dead because he was undercover. Thomas was trying to protect me, I say, my throat tight. He knew the Daltons were setting me up. He knew they'd make it look like I pulled the trigger so they could control me, use me. But Elias got there first. He killed Thomas and made sure I was drunk enough to think I'd done it myself. Why? Why go through all that trouble? Because Elias doesn't just want to hurt people. He wants to destroy them from the inside out. He wanted me to carry that guilt, to run, to hide, to waste away up here thinking I was a murderer. Sarah stands abruptly, pacing to the window. Her silhouette is backlit by the snow glare, and I can see the tremor in her shoulders. He told me he loved me, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. When he found me in St. Louis, I was working at a hospital. I was alone. My brother had been dead for 2 years, and I had nothing. No family, no future, just work and grief. She presses her forehead against the cold glass. Elias came in with a gunshot wound. Nothing serious, just a graze on his shoulder. But he was charming, funny. He made me feel like I mattered. Like I was more than just a nurse who emptied bedpans and held the hands of dying men. He told me his name was Elias Ward, said he'd taken my brother's last name to honor him because they'd served together in the war. I believed him, God help me. I believed every word. Her voice breaks. I want to go to her, but I don't know if that's what she needs. We were together for 2 months. I thought we'd get married, start a family, build something good out of all the loss. And then I told him I was pregnant, and he vanished. Left me a note saying to find you, to go west. She turns to face me, tears streaming down her face. He used me. He used my brother's memory to seduce me, got me pregnant, and then sent me to the one person he wanted to torture most. You. Sarah, I start, but she shakes her head. Don't tell me it's not my fault. I was stupid. I was lonely and stupid, and now I'm carrying the child of a monster. The child isn't a monster, I say firmly. Whatever Elias is, whatever he's done, that baby is innocent. You said it yourself last night. She sobs once, a raw sound that seems torn from somewhere deep. Then she straightens, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. We need a plan, she says, her voice steadying. If he's out there circling, he'll make a move eventually. We need to be ready. I've underestimated her. Again. This woman who showed up on my porch pregnant and desperate is made of stronger stuff than I gave her credit for. Agreed. First thing, we secure the cabin. I've got spare ammunition and another rifle. I'll teach you to shoot. I already know how to shoot. Thomas taught me when I was 12. Of course he did. Thomas Ward thought of everything. Good. Then we inventory supplies, ration food, and we don't go outside unless absolutely necessary. And we watch. Every window, every angle. If Elias wants to play games, we'll be ready. Sarah nods. All business now. What about your leg? You can barely walk. If it comes to a fight, you're a liability. It's healing. Another week or two, I'll be able to move better. We might not have a week or two. She's right, and we both know it. The days that follow are a strange kind of purgatory. We fall into a routine that feels almost domestic, if you ignore the loaded rifles propped by every door and window. Sarah cooks. I sharpen knives and check ammunition. We take turns watching the tree line. And we talk. God help us, we talk. In the long hours between dawn and dusk, Sarah tells me about growing up with Thomas, how he used to play guitar for her when she couldn't sleep, how he taught her to track deer and read the weather in the clouds, how he joined the marshals because he believed in justice, in the idea that good men could make a difference. I tell her about Elias when we were boys, the good memories before everything went dark, how he could make me laugh until my sides hurt, how he once saved a baby bird that fell from its nest and nursed it back to health, how there was a time when I would have died for him. People change, Sarah says one evening as we sit by the fire. Or maybe they just become more of what they always were. You think Elias was always this way? I think the darkness was always there. You just didn't want to see it. Maybe she's right. Maybe I spent so many years trying to save my brother that I never stopped to ask if he wanted to be saved. On the fourth night, my leg starts to throb with a deep, sick heat. When Sarah changes the bandages, we both see the red streak spreading up from the break site. Infection, she says, her face going pale. The bone must have punctured something when you set it. We need to clean this properly. She works on my leg for 2 hours, using her medical training and supplies from her nurse's kit. The pain is excruciating, white-hot agony that makes my vision blur and my teeth crack together. But Sarah's hands are steady. She debrides the wound, irrigates it with carbolic acid, packs it with clean bandages. Her face is a mask of concentration, and I realize she's done this before, probably hundreds of times in field hospitals during the war. "You're good at this," I manage through gritted teeth. "I'm good at keeping people alive. Doesn't mean I can save everyone." When she's done, I'm drenched in sweat and shaking. She helps me to my bed, which I've barely used since she arrived, and covers me with every blanket we have. "You need to rest," she says. "Really rest. If this infection gets worse, you could lose the leg, or worse. We can't afford for me to be down, not with Elias out there. We can't afford for you to die either. I'll keep watch tonight." I want to argue, but the fever is already creeping in around the edges of my vision, turning everything soft and distant. "Sarah," I say as she turns to go, "thank you." She looks back, and in the firelight, she looks so much like her brother it makes my chest ache. The same determined set of the jaw, the same kind eyes. "Sleep, Gideon. I've got you." And somehow, impossibly, I believe her. The fever hits me like a freight train in the deep hours of night. I'm burning up, freezing cold, caught in a delirium that turns the cabin into a nightmare landscape where past and present blur together. I see Thomas Ward, blood on his lips, reaching for me. I see my father falling in slow motion off that ravine. I see Elias as a boy, crying in the dark because our father forgot his birthday again. And through it all, I hear Sarah's voice, steady, calm, anchoring me to the present. She bathes my forehead with cool cloths, forces water between my cracked lips, changes my bandages when the fever sweats through them. She doesn't sleep. I know because every time I surface from the delirium, she's there. In my lucid moments, I try to tell her things. Warnings about Elias, instructions for where I keep my money, my supplies, how to survive the winter if I don't make it. "You're not dying," she says firmly each time. "I didn't come all this way to watch another good man die in front of me. So you're going to fight this, Gideon Cross. You're going to fight, and you're going to live." On the third night of the fever, I wake to find her asleep in the chair beside my bed. She's slumped forward, her head pillowed on her arms, one hand still resting on my wrist like she fell asleep checking my pulse. Her face is drawn with exhaustion. There are new lines around her eyes, new gray in her hair that wasn't there before. This week has aged her in ways that have nothing to do with time. I watch her sleep and something shifts in my chest, something that has nothing to do with fever and everything to do with the way she's fought for me when she had every reason to let me die. She could have walked away, could have let the infection take me and been free of this whole mess. But she didn't. She stayed, she fought, just like her brother would have done. I must make a sound because her eyes flutter open. For a moment she looks disoriented, like she doesn't remember where she is. Then she focuses on me, and relief floods her face. "Your fever broke," she says, touching my forehead. Her hand is cool and steady. "How do you feel?" "Like I got trampled by a herd of elk." She laughs, a sound like water over stones. "That's a good sign. You're coherent." "How long was I out?" 3 days. "The infection peaked yesterday. I thought we were going to lose you." 3 days. 3 days of Sarah alone in this cabin with Elias somewhere out there in the snow. "Did you see him? Any more tracks?" Her face clouds. "Yes, every morning. Fresh tracks circling the cabin, but he never comes close enough for a shot. He's just watching, waiting. Waiting for what?" "I don't know, but I'm tired of it." She stands, moving to the window. The early morning light catches in her hair, turning it bronze and gold. She's not showing yet in a way that changes how she moves, but her hand rests on her belly in that protective gesture that's become as natural as breathing. "Gideon, when you were fevered, you talked. A lot." My stomach drops. "What did I say?" "You called out for Elias. You kept saying you were sorry, that you should have seen it, should have saved him." She turns to face me. "What did you mean?" I close my eyes, remembering. The avalanche. When Elias disappeared, I searched for 3 days. But there was a moment right before the second wave hit when I could have grabbed him, could have pulled him back. I hesitated, just for a second, and then he was gone. "You think you could have saved him?" "I know I could have. I was the stronger climber, the faster thinker. But I froze, and he paid the price. Or so I thought. And you've been carrying that guilt ever since." "Wouldn't you? He was my brother, my twin, my responsibility." Sarah crosses back to the bed and sits on the edge, her weight shifting the mattress. "Gideon, listen to me. You didn't fail Elias. He chose this path. Long before that avalanche, he chose darkness over light. You couldn't have saved him because he didn't want to be saved." "You don't know that?" "Yes, I do, because I've seen what he's capable of. He seduced me knowing exactly who I was. He got me pregnant as part of some twisted game. He sent me to you to torture you with guilt. That's not a man who was shaped by one moment of hesitation. That's a man who's been building his own hell brick by brick his entire life." Her eyes are fierce, burning with a conviction that makes me want to believe her. "My brother's journal said you were good," she continues. "He said you just didn't know it yet. Well, I'm here to tell you the same thing. You're not the villain in this story, Gideon. Neither is Thomas. The only villain is Elias, and he's counting on you feeling too guilty to fight back." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's time to stop running, stop hiding. When he comes, and he will come, we face him together, and we end this." Something in her voice reminds me of steel being forged. She's not the same woman who stepped off that wagon 2 weeks ago. That woman was running. This woman is ready to stand and fight. "You sound like a general rallying troops." "I was an army nurse for 4 years. I've seen what happens when good people hesitate, when they second-guess themselves while evil acts without conscience." She places her hand over mine. "Thomas died because he hesitated. He saw the good in people, even in the Dalton gang, even in Elias. It got him killed. I won't make the same mistake, I say, and I mean it." Over the next week, as my leg slowly heals and my strength returns, Sarah and I prepare for war. She's a better shot than I expected. I watch from the porch as she puts bullet after bullet through a target I've nailed to a tree 50 yards out. Her form is textbook perfect, her breathing controlled, her fingers squeezed smooth. "Thomas was a good teacher," I observe. "The best." She reloads without looking down, muscle memory taking over. "He said shooting is 90% mental. If you flinch, you miss. If you hesitate, you die." Sounds like Thomas. He also said the hardest thing in the world is shooting at something that looks human, that your brain will fight you every step of the way, trying to stop you from doing the thing you know you have to do. She chambers around and takes aim again. I used to wonder what he meant. Now I know. The shot rings out, echoing off the canyon walls, dead center. When Elias comes, she says quietly, lowering the rifle, I won't hesitate. I believe her. 2 days later, on a morning so clear and cold it hurts to breathe, everything changes. I'm out checking the snare line I set up close to the cabin. My leg is still weak, but I can walk now without the crutch if I'm careful. The snow crunches under my boots, each step breaking through the frozen crust with a sound like breaking glass. I've caught 2 rabbits, which is good. Our supplies are running low, and winter shows no signs of loosening its grip. I'm resetting the 3rd snare when I hear it, a sound that doesn't belong in the winter silence. A horse, whinnying, close. I drop the rabbit carcasses and pull my revolver, moving as quickly as my bad leg will allow back toward the cabin. My heart is hammering. Elias doesn't have a horse. At least, he didn't have one when he left those tracks, unless he went down to Derby. Unless he's been planning this longer than we thought. I break through the tree line and stop dead. There's a horse tied to my porch rail, a big black gelding with a white star on its forehead. Steam rises from its flanks. It's been ridden hard. And sitting on my porch, casual as Sunday morning, is my brother. Elias looks exactly like me. Same height, same build, same dark hair, though his is longer, touching his collar. But his eyes are different. I remembered that much correctly. Where mine are brown and warm, his are brown and cold. Empty windows and a handsome face. The scar on his left cheek is still there, a thin white line from a knife fight when we were 16. I got the same scar in the same fight, only mine is on my right cheek. Perfect mirrors, even in our damage. Hello, brother, he says, and his voice is my voice. It's been a long time. I keep my revolver trained on his chest. Not long enough. He smiles, showing teeth that are too white, too perfect. Is that any way to greet family? I've come a long way to see you. Why are you here, Elias? Isn't it obvious? He gestures at the cabin. I've come for what's mine. Sarah isn't yours. She never was. I'm not talking about Sarah. His eyes flick to the cabin door. Though I'll admit, I'm curious how you've been treating her. Is she well? Is the baby healthy? Rage floods through me, hot and pure. Don't you dare act like you care. But I do care, Gideon. That's my child she's carrying. My blood. My legacy. Your legacy is murder and lies. Is it? He stands, moving with the lazy grace of a predator who knows he's faster than his prey. I seem to recall you spent 8 years thinking you were the murderer. How's that for a legacy? I know the truth now. I know you killed Thomas Ward. I know you framed me for it. Do you? His smile widens. And how exactly do you know that, brother? Did Sarah tell you? Did you read Thomas's convenient journal with its convenient last entry pointing the finger at me? Something in his tone makes my blood run cold. What are you saying? I'm saying you're still playing the game, Gideon. You just don't know it yet. Before I can respond, the cabin door opens and Sarah steps out, my rifle in her hands. Get off our porch, Elias. Our porch. The words hit me somewhere deep. Elias's eyes light up when he sees her. Sarah, you look radiant. Pregnancy agrees with you. I said get off our porch. There's that fire I fell in love with. He takes a step toward her, and she raises the rifle to her shoulder. Easy now. You wouldn't shoot the father of your child, would you? You're not a father. You're a sperm donor. There's a difference. Elias laughs, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, I've missed you, Sarah. The way you cut straight to the bone. It's one of your best qualities. Last warning, Sarah says, and I can hear the tremor in her voice. Not fear, rage. Leave now or I put a bullet in you. You won't, Elias says confidently, because you're not a killer. You're a nurse, a healer. It's against your nature. You'd be surprised what nature allows when you're protecting your child. The standoff stretches. 3 people, 2 guns, a lifetime of lies between us. Then Elias does something that changes everything. He reaches into his coat, moving slowly, and pulls out a folded piece of paper. "I brought you something," he says, holding it out. "A gift. Call it a peace offering." "We don't want anything from you," I say. "Oh, I think you'll want this." He unfolds the paper, and even from 20 feet away, I can see official seals, legal stamps. It's a birth certificate for the baby, already filled out. Father listed as Gideon Cross, Mother Sarah Ward, all legal, all official. Sarah's rifle waivers. What? "I'm giving him to you," Elias says simply. "The baby. I'm signing away all parental rights. He's yours, Gideon, yours and Sarah's. Congratulations, brother. You're going to be a father." The world tilts sideways. Why would you do that? Because I'm not father material. We both know that. But you've always wanted a family. Always wanted to be the good son, the good man, the hero. Well, here's your chance. He sets the paper on the porch rail and steps back, hands raised. "That's all I came to say. I'm leaving, going east. You'll never see me again." "This is a trick," Sarah says. "It has to be." "No trick. I'm done with this life, done with the Daltons, done with all of it. I just wanted to do one good thing before I disappear for good." He walks to his horse, swings into the saddle with easy grace. "Raise him well, brother. Teach him to be better than both of us." "Elias, wait," I call out, confused, suspicious, but he's already turning the horse. "One more thing," he says, looking back over his shoulder. "You asked how I knew you'd take Sarah in, how I knew you'd protect her. How? Because I know you, Gideon. I know you better than you know yourself. You've spent your whole life trying to fix my mistakes, carrying my guilt, being the good twin." He smiles that empty smile. "I was counting on it." And then he's gone, riding down the mountain trail, disappearing into the trees. Sarah lowers her rifle slowly, her face pale. What just happened? I climb the porch steps and pick up the birth certificate. It looks official, legal signatures, notary stamp, everything in order. "I don't know," I say honestly, "but Elias doesn't do anything without a reason. You think it's real? You think he's really giving up his rights to the baby?" I study the document, looking for the catch. With Elias, there's always a catch, always another layer. Sarah sits down heavily on the porch steps, her rifle across her knees. I don't understand him. I thought I did, but I don't. Neither do I, not anymore. We sit in silence, watching the tree line, waiting for Elias to circle back, to reveal the real plan. But hours pass, and he doesn't return. The sun crosses the sky, the shadows lengthen, the temperature drops as evening approaches, and slowly, impossibly, we start to believe that maybe, just maybe, he meant what he said. That night, we sit by the fire, passing the birth certificate back and forth like it might disappear if we look away. "It could be a forgery," Sarah says for the 10th time. "It could be," I agree, "but if it's real, if he really signed away his rights, then legally, the baby would be yours, ours." The word hangs between us. Ours. "Is that what you want?" I ask carefully. "Because I meant what I said. I'll protect you and the baby regardless. But this would be different. This would be choosing to build something together." Sarah stares into the fire for a long time. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely above a whisper. "When I was delirious with grief after Thomas died, I used to imagine what it would be like if I could go back, if I could warn him, save him. But I never could. The past is fixed, unchangeable." She looks at me, and her eyes are wet with tears that don't fall. "But the future isn't. The future is wide open. And maybe that's the gift Thomas was really giving me when he wrote that journal entry. Not answers about his death, but hope for what comes after." "He said I was good," I murmur, "that I'd take care of you." "He was right. You're good, Gideon Cross. You're the man Elias could have been if he'd made different choices. And I think maybe, if we're brave enough to try, we could build something good here. Something real." She places her hand over mine, and I realize we're both shaking. "I can't promise to love you," she says honestly. "Not yet, not after everything. But I can promise to try, to stay, to build this life with you if you'll have me." I think about Thomas Ward, bleeding out in my arms, asking me to take care of Sarah. I think about 8 years of guilt and running and hiding from a crime I didn't commit. I think about the baby growing inside this brave, broken woman, and how Elias was right about one thing. I've always wanted a family. Always wanted to be the man my father never was, the man Elias refused to become. I'll have you, I say, my voice rough. I'll have both of you, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice. Sarah smiles, and it's small and fragile and real. Then I guess we're doing this. I guess we are. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters. Snow begins to fall again, heavy and thick. We're locked in for another few weeks at least. But for the first time since Sarah arrived, the cabin doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like a beginning. The screaming starts 3 weeks later, in the deep hours before dawn, when the world is at its darkest. I jolt awake in my chair by the fire, my hand already reaching for the rifle propped against the armrest. But the sound comes again, and I realize it's not danger, it's pain. Sarah is on her knees beside her bed, one hand clutching the wooden frame, the other pressed against her swollen belly. In the dim firelight, I can see the wetness spreading across the floor beneath her. Her water has broken. "Gideon," she gasps, her face slick with sweat despite the cold. "It's time. The baby is coming." I'm across the cabin in 3 lurching steps, my healed leg protesting but holding. "It's too early. You said you had another month." The baby doesn't care what I said. Another contraction hits her, and she bites down on her lip hard enough to draw blood. "Help me, please. I've delivered lambs, calves, even a foal once. But I've never delivered a human child, and the terror that floods through me is unlike anything I've felt facing down grizzlies or avalanches or my own brother's cold eyes. "Tell me what to do," I say, kneeling beside her. She's shaking, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. "We need hot water, clean cloth, and your sharpest knife, boiled for 10 minutes. I move on autopilot, stoking the fire until it roars, setting every pot and kettle we have to boil. I find the cleanest sheets, tear them into strips. I boil my hunting knife until the blade glows faintly red. When I return to her, Sarah has managed to pull herself onto the bed. Her face is white as the snow outside, but her eyes are focused, determined. "I need you to examine me," she says through gritted teeth. "Tell me how far dilated I am." "Sarah, I don't know how to do that." "You'll figure it out. I'll guide you through it." So I do. With shaking hands and Sarah's clinical instructions, I learn more about childbirth in 5 minutes than I ever wanted to know. And what I learned sends ice through my veins. "You're fully dilated," I tell her. "But something's wrong. I can feel there's a foot, the baby's breech." Sarah's eyes close. For a moment her whole body goes still. Then she opens them again, and the steel in her gaze could cut diamond. "You're going to have to turn the baby, manually." "I don't know how to do that. I'll tell you, step by step. But Gideon, I need you to listen very carefully. This is going to hurt me, badly. I might scream, I might beg you to stop, but you can't stop. If the baby comes out feet first, we'll both die. Do you understand?" I understand that I'm being asked to hurt this woman who's come to mean more to me than my own life. I understand that my hands might be the death of her, but I also understand that not trying guarantees that death. I understand. Good. Now on the next contraction, you're going to reach up and find the baby's other foot. What follows is the longest hour of my life. Sarah doesn't just scream, she howls, she thrashes. She begs me to stop in a voice so broken it doesn't sound human. But every time I hesitate, she forces her eyes open and commands me to continue. "Don't you dare stop, Gideon Cross. Don't you dare." So I don't stop. With sweat pouring down my face and my hands slick with blood, I follow her instructions. Find the foot, find the other foot. Gentle pressure, rotating, praying to a God I stopped believing in 8 years ago. And somehow, impossibly, the baby turns. "He's head down," I gasp. "Sarah, he's head down." She's too exhausted to respond. Her eyes are half closed, her skin gray. She's lost too much blood. I can see it pooling beneath her, soaking through the sheets. Sarah, you need to push. The baby's ready, but you need to push. Can't, she whispers. Too tired. Yes, you can. You're the strongest woman I've ever met. You survived Elias. You survived this winter. You survived me. You can do this. Nothing. Panic claws at my throat. She's fading. Right in front of me, she's slipping away. And then I remember. Thomas Ward, her brother, the man whose death brought us together. I lean close to her ear. Thomas is watching, Sarah. Your brother is watching, and he needs you to fight. He needs you to live. He needs you to raise this baby and teach him what it means to be good. Don't you dare let him down. Her eyes snap open. There's fury in them now. Fury and pain, and something that looks like resurrection. Don't you use my brother against me, she snarls. Then prove me wrong. Push. She does. The next 10 minutes are a blur of blood and agony, and sounds I'll hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life. But at the end of it, I'm holding a tiny, slippery, screaming life in my trembling hands. A boy. Red-faced and furious and absolutely perfect. I cut the cord with my boiled knife, tie it off with steady hands that don't feel like mine. I wrap him in the cleanest cloth I have and place him on Sarah's chest. She's barely conscious, but her arms come up automatically, cradling him against her. Tears stream down her face, mixing with the sweat and blood. "Hello, little one," she whispers. "Hello." I work quickly to deliver the afterbirth, to pack the wounds, to stop the bleeding that's still too heavy. My hands remember Sarah's training, the instructions she gave me weeks ago when we talked about what might happen if the baby came early. It takes me another hour to get the bleeding under control, another hour of Sarah drifting in and out of consciousness while the baby roots at her breast, instinct older than thought guiding him. When I'm finally done, when she's as stable as I can make her, I collapse into the chair beside the bed. My hands are shaking so badly I have to clench them into fists. The sun is rising. Pale pink light filters through the windows, turning the blood-stained cabin into something almost beautiful. "Gideon," Sarah murmurs, her voice barely audible, "I'm here." "Is he okay? The baby?" I look at the tiny bundle on her chest. He's stopped crying now, making small snuffling sounds that might be the most perfect thing I've ever heard. He's perfect. What should we name him? I think about Thomas Ward, about the man who tried to save me, who asked his sister to take care of me, who died believing there was still good in this world worth fighting for. "Thomas," I say. "His name is Thomas." Sarah smiles, her eyes already closing. "Thomas Cross. I like that." "Not Cross," I say softly. "Thomas Ward Cross. He carries both names, both legacies." Her hand finds mine on the bed, squeezes weakly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For fighting. For both of us." Then she's asleep, her breathing deep and steady. Alive. I sit there in the growing light, watching her and the baby, and I feel something shift in my chest. Something that's been frozen for 8 years starts to thaw. I'm a father now, maybe not by blood, but by choice. By the promises made in firelight and kept in blood. And I'll be damned if I let anything happen to my family. The next 3 days are a strange, exhausted blur. Sarah sleeps more than she's awake, her body trying to heal from the trauma of birth. I take care of everything else, the baby, the cabin, the constant vigil at the window, watching for Elias. Because I know he's out there, I know he's watching. And I know that his little performance with the birth certificate was just the opening move in a game I don't fully understand yet. But the tracks in the snow have stopped. The circling has ended. It's like Elias vanished into the mountains, leaving us in a silence that's somehow worse than his presence. On the 4th day, Sarah is strong enough to sit up. I bring her breakfast in bed, which feels domestic and strange and right all at once. "You're getting good at this," she says, watching me juggle the baby while balancing a tray of eggs and toast. "I'm terrified every second that I'm going to drop him." "You won't. You're too careful." I hand her the baby, and he latches immediately, nursing with the single-minded intensity of the very young. Sarah winces but doesn't complain. "Does it hurt?" I ask. "Everything hurts. But it's a good hurt. The kind that means we're alive." I set the tray across her lap and settle into my chair. Outside I can hear snow sliding off the roof, the first real sign that winter might be loosening its grip. "Spring is coming," Sarah observes. "Another few weeks, the pass will be clear." "What do you want to do when it clears?" She's quiet for a long moment, watching Thomas nurse. "I've been thinking about that, about what comes next. And I want to stay. Here, with you, if you'll have us." My heart does something complicated in my chest. "You're sure? This is a hard life, Sarah. Isolated, difficult. There are easier places to raise a child." "I don't want easy. I want real. And this, what we have here, it's the most real thing I've felt since Thomas died." She looks up at me. "Is that crazy?" "No, it's the sanest thing I've heard in years." She smiles, and it's like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "Then it's settled. We'll stay, build a life here, raise Thomas to be strong and good and nothing like his biological father." "He'll be everything like his real father," I say. "Thomas Ward. The best man I never got to know." "And you," Sarah adds. "He'll be like you too, Gideon, the man who saved us both." Before I can respond, there's a sound outside. A horse. Close. We both freeze. Sarah's hand goes to the rifle I keep beside her bed. I move to the window, peering out through the gap in the shutters. There's a horse tied to the porch rail, the same big black gelding with the white star. And sitting on my porch, exactly like before, is Elias. But something's different this time. He's not smiling. He's hunched forward, hands pressed against his side. Even from here, I can see the dark stain spreading across his shirt. Blood. "Gideon," he calls out, his voice rough with pain. "I need help, brother, please." Sarah appears beside me, the baby in her arms. It's a trick. Maybe, but he's bleeding, could be dying. Good. I look at her, surprised by the venom in her voice. "He doesn't deserve your mercy," she says, "after everything he's done." "No, he doesn't, but Thomas would help him anyway. Thomas believed in mercy even for people who didn't deserve it. Thomas is dead because of people like Elias. I know, but I'm not Thomas. I'm just a man trying to figure out how to live with the choices I make. And if I let my brother bleed to death on my porch without even checking if I can help, I become something I don't want to be." Sarah's jaw tightens, but she nods. "Fine, but I'm covering you with the rifle. And if he makes one wrong move, I'm putting a bullet in him." "Fair enough." I grab my revolver and step out onto the porch. The morning air is crisp and cold, but there's a softness to it that wasn't there a week ago. Spring is definitely coming. Elias looks up at me, and I'm shocked by what I see. He's pale as death, sweating despite the cold. The wound in his side is serious, maybe fatal. "What happened?" I ask, keeping my distance. "Dalton's," he gasps. "Found out I was planning to testify against them. Sent 3 men. I killed 2, but the 3rd got me before I got him." "Where did this happen?" I ask, my hand tight on the rifle. Elias grimaces, his breathing shallow. 10 miles south. They caught me at dawn, coming through the narrow pass below Derby. 3 riders." He pauses, coughing. Blood flecks his lips. "The first one I shot from ambush. He never saw it coming. The second charged me on horseback. I pulled him down, broke his neck with my bare hands. And the third had a rifle. Smart enough to keep his distance. We traded shots for maybe 5 minutes. He got me here." He presses harder against his side, and fresh blood seeps through his fingers. "But I got him in the throat, watched him drown in his own blood. And you rode all the way here, like this? Didn't have anywhere else to go. Where is he now? The 3rd man?" "Dead. All of them dead. But I'm not far behind. I study him, looking for the lie. But all I see is pain, and something that might be fear. Why come here? Why not go to a doctor in Derby? I wouldn't make it. Too far. Too much blood." He coughs, and red bubbles at his lips. Besides, you're the only one who'd understand. Understand what? What it's like to be dying and need forgiveness from the one person who has every right to let you die. Sarah steps out onto the porch, the rifle trained on Elias's chest. The baby is inside, safely asleep in his makeshift crib. "You want forgiveness?" she asks, her voice cold as the snow. "After what you did to me? To Thomas? To Gideon?" Elias looks at her, and for the first time since I've known him, I see something real in his eyes. Regret, shame, the things I've been carrying for 8 years that should have been his burden all along. "No," he says quietly, "I don't deserve forgiveness. I know that, but I wanted to see you both one more time, to see if the baby came, to know if I did one thing right by giving him to you." "The baby came," I say. "A boy. We named him Thomas." Something flickers across Elias's face, pain that has nothing to do with the wound. "Thomas, that's good. That's right." He coughs again, harder this time. More blood. "Gideon, there's something I need to tell you. Something you need to know before I die." "Save your strength." "No, this is important." He fumbles in his coat pocket, pulls out a blood-stained envelope. "This is for you. The truth about everything. About Thomas Ward, about the Daltons, about why I've been circling you all these years." I take the envelope, my hand steady even though my heart is racing. "I'm sorry," Elias says, and his voice breaks. "For all of it. For being the darkness to your light. For making you carry my sins. For not being the brother you deserved." "Elias," I start, but he holds up a hand. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just saying I'm sorry. There's a difference." He looks at Sarah. "And I'm sorry to you too, Sarah. You deserved better than what I gave you, better than lies and abandonment." Sarah's rifle lowers slightly, not much, but enough. "Why did you do it? Why seduce me if you knew you were just going to leave?" "Because I'm broken," Elias says simply. "I've been broken since we were kids, and I never learned how to fix it. I just learned how to break other people so I wouldn't be alone in my brokenness." The silence that follows is broken only by Elias's labored breathing and the sound of melting snow dripping from the roof. "I can help you," I finally say. "Sarah's a nurse. She can patch you up. You don't have to die here." Elias smiles, and it's sad and small, and the most honest expression I've ever seen on his face. "Yes, I do. This is how it ends, Gideon. Me bleeding out, you trying to save me even though you shouldn't. It's poetic, really." "Nothing about this is poetic. Maybe not. But it's fitting." He coughs again, weaker this time. "The envelope. Read it when I'm gone. It'll explain everything. Elias, please, let us help you." But he's already slumping forward. I lurch toward him, catching him before he hits the porch. His weight is familiar in my arms, the mirror image of my own body. His blood soaks into my shirt, warm and sticky. "Tell Thomas," he whispers, his eyes already glazing. "Tell my son that his father tried to be better at the end, even if he failed. I'll tell him. And Gideon, be the man I couldn't be, for both of us." Then he's gone. The light leaves his eyes, and I'm holding my brother's body for the second time in my life. Only this time, he's really dead. Sarah comes down from the porch, the rifle still in her hands. She looks at Elias's body, and I can't read the expression on her face. "Is it over?" she asks. "Yeah, it's over." We bury Elias on the hill behind the cabin, next to where I buried my father all those years ago. It takes me most of the day to dig through the half-frozen ground, but I do it. Sarah stands watch with Thomas in her arms, the rifle across her knees. When it's done, when Elias is in the ground, and the dirt is packed down, I fashion a simple cross from 2 pieces of pine. "What should it say?" Sarah asks. I think about my brother, about the boy he was before the darkness took him, about the man he could have been if things had been different. "Elias Cross," I say. "Brother, lost, remembered." Sarah nods. I carve the words with my knife, and we stand there in the fading light, looking at the fresh grave. "Do you want to say something?" I ask. "No, but you should." So I do. I say the words I should have said 8 years ago when I thought he died in the avalanche. I say goodbye to my twin, my mirror, my opposite. I say goodbye to the guilt I've been carrying and the hope that he might someday change. And then we walk back down the hill to the cabin, to the baby waiting inside, to the life we're going to build from the wreckage of the past. That night, after Sarah and Thomas are asleep, I open the envelope Elias gave me. Inside there's a letter, several pages, covered in Elias's handwriting. My handwriting, our handwriting. I read it by firelight, and with each word, the world I thought I understood shifts and reforms. The letter tells me everything, about how the Daltons recruited Elias after the avalanche, about how they used him as a killer, a ghost who could blame his crimes on his twin, about how Elias resisted at first, tried to protect me, but eventually gave in to the darkness. It tells me about Thomas Ward, about how Thomas wasn't just investigating the Daltons. He was investigating Elias specifically because he'd figured out there were twins. He was trying to prove I was innocent before the law came for me. And it tells me about Sarah, about how Elias found her deliberately, how he seduced her knowing exactly who she was, how he got her pregnant as part of a plan to give me the family he knew I'd always wanted. I couldn't be good, the letter says in Elias's slanted script. But I could give you the chance to be good for both of us. Sarah is strong. The baby will be strong. They're my gift to you, brother. My apology written in flesh and blood. I know you'll take care of them. I know you'll be the father I couldn't be, the husband I wasn't capable of being, the man I should have been. Don't waste time hating me. I've done enough of that for both of us. Just live, Gideon. Live the life I threw away. Be happy. Be whole. And when Thomas is old enough, tell him his father loved him enough to give him away. Because some kinds of love look like abandonment, but they're really salvation. The letter ends with a single line. Thank you for being my brother, even when I didn't deserve it. I fold the letter carefully and place it in the box where I keep my important things. Someday, when Thomas is old enough, I'll give it to him. Let him decide for himself what kind of man his biological father was. But for now, I just sit by the fire and let the tears come. For Elias, for Thomas Ward, for all the ways love can be twisted and broken and still somehow lead to something good. Sarah finds me there an hour later. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside me and takes my hand. Are you okay? She finally asks. I don't know. Ask me in a year, she smiles. Fair enough. We sit in silence, watching the flames dance. Outside, the snow is melting faster now. Rivulets of water run down the mountainside, carving new paths in the frozen earth. Spring is coming. Real spring, not just the promise of it. Gideon, Sarah says softly, I've been thinking. About what? About us. About what we are to each other. My heart starts to pound. What are we? I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. Slowly, carefully, if you're willing. I turn to look at her. In the firelight, she's beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with her features and everything to do with her strength. I'm willing, I say. I'm willing to try. She leans her head on my shoulder, and we stay like that until the fire burns low and Thomas starts to cry for his feeding. 6 months later, in the full bloom of summer, we stand on the hill behind the cabin. The wildflowers are in bloom, turning the meadow into a sea of purple and gold. The mountains rise behind us, still capped with snow that will never fully melt. There are 2 graves now, Elias's with its simple cross, and beside it a new marker I carved last week, Thomas Ward. Deputy Marshal, brother, hero, friend. I never found his actual grave, probably never will, but Sarah wanted him here, close to us, so we made a memorial with what we had. His journal, his badge, which I finally dug up from where I buried it 8 years ago, a photograph of him in his uniform. Sarah is beside me, holding Thomas. He's 6 months old now, fat and happy and loud. He has Sarah's eyes and Elias's chin and a smile that could melt glaciers. Do you think they can see us? Sarah asks, looking at the graves. Thomas and Elias? I don't know. I'd like to think so. What do you think they'd say? I think about that, about my brother, and the man who tried to save us both. I think Thomas would say he's proud of you, of how strong you've been, how you turned pain into purpose. And Elias? I think Elias would say he's sorry, and that he's glad we found each other. In his own twisted way, he wanted this, wanted us to be happy. Sarah shifts the baby to her other hip. I never thought I'd forgive him, but I think maybe I'm starting to, not for what he did, but for what it led to. Thomas would like that, the forgiveness part. Yeah, he would. We stand there in the warm sun, a family built from the wreckage of two broken ones. It's not the family any of us expected, but it's ours. That evening, after Thomas is asleep and the dishes are washed, Sarah takes my hand. Come outside, she says. I want to show you something. We step out onto the porch. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. The mountains are silhouetted against the light, majestic and eternal. Look, Sarah says, pointing. I follow her finger and see what she means. The cabin has changed over the months. I've added a new room for Thomas, fixed the roof, built a fence around the garden Sarah planted. There is a chicken coop now and a small barn for the goat we traded for in Derby. It doesn't look like a hermit's cabin anymore. It looks like a home. We did this, Sarah says softly. Together, we took all that pain and all that loss, and we built something good. Thomas would be proud, I say. Both of them, she corrects, in their own ways. She turns to face me, and in the dying light, she's luminous. Gideon, there is something I need to tell you. My heart starts to race. What is it? I'm pregnant again. The world stops. The sunset freezes. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. You're sure? I'm a nurse, I'm sure. She places my hand on her still flat belly. This one is ours, Gideon. Yours and mine. Made from choice, not circumstance. I can't speak, can't breathe, can't do anything but stand there with my hand on her belly and my heart so full it might burst. Say something, she whispers. I love you, I manage. I didn't know how to say it before, but I love you, Sarah Ward. I love you and Thomas and this new life we're building together. I love you too, she says. And she's crying now, happy tears that catch the light. I fought it for so long, but I can't fight it anymore. I love you, Gideon Cross. We kiss as the sun sets behind the mountains, and it's sweet and soft and tastes like hope. When we pull apart, Sarah is smiling. What should we name this one? If it's a boy? I think about the two men buried on the hill, about the legacies they left behind, about the future we're building from the ashes of the past. If it's a boy, we'll name him Elias, I say. Give my brother a second chance through his nephew. Let him be remembered for more than his mistakes. And if it's a girl? Hope, I say. We'll name her Hope. Sarah laughs, and the sound is like music. That's perfect. We stand on the porch as the stars come out, holding each other, watching our son sleep through the window. The mountain is quiet around us, peaceful in the way only wild places can be. Tomorrow there will be work to do, wood to chop, animals to feed, a child to raise, and another on the way. The challenges of building a life in a place that doesn't forgive weakness. But tonight, we just stand together and breathe. We survived the winter, we survived the ghosts, we survived ourselves. And now, finally, we're ready to live. Inside the cabin, Thomas starts to cry. Not the urgent cry of hunger, but the softer sound of a baby who just wants to be held. Sarah moves to go to him, but I stop her. I'll get him. You rest. I go inside and lift my son from his crib. He settles immediately against my chest, his tiny hand curling around my finger. I walk him to the window and show him the stars. See that one? I whisper, pointing to the brightest star in the eastern sky. That's your Uncle Thomas. He's watching over you, making sure you grow up strong and good. The baby coos, his eyes wide and dark. And that one, I point to another star, slightly dimmer. That's your other uncle, Elias. He made mistakes, but he loved you enough to give you to me, to us. I rock Thomas gently, humming a song my mother used to sing. Outside, I can hear Sarah moving around the porch, watering her garden in the evening cool. This is my life now, not the one I expected, not the one I planned, but the one I chose, the one I fought for, the one I'll protect with everything I have. The ghosts are quiet now. The guilt has faded to a dull ache that I've learned to live with. The past is still there, always will be, but it doesn't own me anymore. I look down at Thomas, at his perfect tiny face, and I make him a promise. I'll teach you to be kind, I whisper, to be strong, to choose light over darkness even when the darkness looks easier. I'll tell you about the men you're named after, the good and the bad, and I'll let you decide for yourself what kind of man you want to be. But most of all, I'll teach you that love is a choice, not a feeling, not a convenience, a choice you make every single day to show up to fight, to build something good even when the world tries to tear it down. Thomas yawns, his eyes starting to close. I carry him back to his crib and lay him down gently. He's asleep before I pull the blanket over him. Sarah comes in from the garden, her hands dirty, her face flushed from the cooling air. She's beautiful. Not in the way Elias probably told her she was, with honeyed lies and empty promises, but in the way real things are beautiful, scarred and strong and absolutely true. "He's asleep?" she asks, out like a light. She washes her hands in the basin and comes to stand beside me. We look down at our son together, this tiny life that carries so much weight, so much history. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asks. "Raising him up here, away from everything?" "I think we're doing the best we can, and sometimes that's enough." She nods, slipping her hand into mine. "The new baby will need a bigger cabin, another room at least. I'll start building next week, before the ground freezes again, and we'll need more supplies, more food stored for winter. I'll make a trip to Derby next month, stock up. We're making plans, building a future, choosing to believe that tomorrow will come, and we'll be ready for it." That night, we lie in bed together. Not the separate corners we occupied in those first frozen weeks, but tangled together in the middle, Sarah's head on my chest, my arm around her shoulders. "Gideon," she murmurs, half asleep. "Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For being the kind of man who'd take in a pregnant stranger in the middle of winter, for fighting for us, for choosing to love when it would have been easier to stay closed off." I kiss the top of her head. "Thank you for giving me a reason to fight, for seeing something in me worth saving." She's asleep before I finish the sentence, her breathing deep and even. I lie there in the dark, listening to her breathe, listening to Thomas's soft snores from his crib, listening to the mountains settle around us for the night. The wind picks up, rattling the shutters, but they hold. The cabin is strong. We built it to last. Tomorrow, the sun will rise over the Bitterroot Mountains. The snow will continue to melt. The wild flowers will bloom and fade and bloom again. The seasons will turn, indifferent to our small human dramas. But we'll still be here. Sarah and I and Thomas and the new baby growing inside her. We'll still be fighting, still building, still choosing love over fear, light over darkness, hope over despair. Because that's what you do when you've been given a second chance. You don't waste it. You don't take it for granted. You hold it close and you protect it, and you pour everything you have into making it count. I close my eyes and let sleep take me, secure in the knowledge that when I wake, my family will still be here. The ghosts will still be quiet, and the future will still be ours to write. The weight of winter has finally lifted. Spring has come to the mountain, and we're ready. The end.